All right, guys, this is lesson 2 of our Health and Wellness Chapter 1 series. I hope you guys are having a good night. If you have any questions after this video, if you will just leave me a comment below and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. It should be pretty straightforward. So in lesson 1, we talked about the 4 different influences of health, if you can remember what they are. Remember, we had physical health. What is physical health? Dealing with your body. We talked about emotional health. In emotional health, how well can you deal with stress and things like that. We talked about social health. How well do you deal with relationships and friends and things like that. And then we also had mental health. So mental health, dealing with different mental diseases and things like that. So those are the 4 areas of health. Wellness, if you remember, you can only be well if all 4 areas of these, all of these are working together and they're all healthy. If you take off one of those, then you're obviously going to have some problems if you have a problem with one of those. So health, individual 4, and then wellness all together. So today we're going to talk about what influences our overall health and wellness. So if you read in your book, the first influence is heredity. So our first influence we're going to talk about is heredity. So if you've never heard that word, it is what is passed down from your parents, your grandparents. And some of those things we can see and some of those things we can't see. So some obvious things from heredity. My amazing dad has beautiful hazel eyes, and I'm his daughter, so guess what? I have beautiful hazel eyes as well. So some things we can see. My dad is a really funny guy. He's really goofy and crazy, and so he's influenced me as his daughter. I'm really goofy and crazy. Some of those things are just influenced, but some things we can't see, and a lot of times the things we cannot see are the things that influence us more than the things we can't see. For instance, if your dad, as mine does, has diabetes, and my dad's dad also has diabetes, on my mom's side of the family, her dad has diabetes. So this is me down here on my family tree. What do I need to be looking out for? I need to be realizing that my parents, my grandparents, my family could have passed down something to me. I could one day maybe develop diabetes unless I'm proactive and trying to make sure that doesn't happen. So it might be a condition in your family of heart disease or breast cancer or those different things, but it's very, very smart to be thinking of what runs in your family that can be passed down to you, that you can be thinking of now. How can you prevent those things from happening? But that is something that influences your health. What have you inherited from your family that you can't help, but how can that influence your health?
Go.
All right, so our second influence on your health is your environment. Your environment has a lot to do with every aspect of your health. If you're living somewhere where there's a lot of smog in your air around you, then obviously that's something you're going to breathe in. That's going to affect your health. If you are around secondhand smoke a lot, then that's obviously going to affect your health if you're breathing that in. The environment can even be, emotionally. Do you live somewhere where there happens to be a lot of trash along the places, that you're walking constantly, in your environment, where you go? All of those different things can have a huge effect on you, obviously, and it can have a negative effect. So your environment can have a positive or a negative effect, and you do have control over that. Are you going to take and, clean up your environment? Can you help do something so you're not around some of these things that are affecting you so that you can try to influence your environment? What can you do? Your book talks about, recycling, disposing of trash, trying to do different things like that so you can actually help your environment. So the third influence on your health, your book is talking about your relationships that you're in. How do your relationship affect you? There are 3 different relationships they talk about. The first relationships they're discussing are the relationships with your family. And those relationships with your family, I mean, your family, your mom, dad, grandma, aunt, uncle, whoever you were raised with, they really taught you, things about how to be healthy, what to eat, brushing your teeth, hygiene, all those things, how to maybe even deal with conflict and things like that. So obviously your family, those relationships greatly affect your health. The second one are your peers. And your peers, remember, as anybody that's the same age as you, basically, that you're in class with, sports teams with, those peers affect, those relationships with your peers affect your health in many different ways. And remember, once again, they can affect you in a positive way. They can influence you to do the right things, or they can influence you in a negative way if they influence you to do things that are not going to benefit you. So you need to be really wise in who you want to be like and who you're hanging around, which leads us to talk to the third relationship we're going to talk about is your friends. And as I'm sure you've heard your parents and teachers say, you need to pick your friends wisely. When you're deciding who you're going to be friends with, you need to decide, am I going to be friends with somebody who is a positive influence on me, who's telling me to do the right thing, or am I going to be friends with somebody who's constantly maybe getting in trouble, who's asking you to do things that you shouldn't do? What friends should you have in that inner circle that you want to become friends with? And obviously we're going to choose those friends. We should choose those people that are going to influence us and help us to become a better person. But your family, your peers, and your friends, those relationships have so much to do with your health in general. And like we talked about, if these relationships aren't healthy and they're creating stress and they are bringing you down in different ways, if they're having you do things, if you have friends that are encouraging you to do things that are unhealthy or unsafe, then all of that really influences your self-esteem, influences your health. It could be physically, emotionally, all of those different ways. And then our last influence we're going to talk about that influences our health, the fourth category is other factor. And the other factor could be lots of different things. However, your book is discussing those other factors, the main one being the media. And when we think about media, I know a lot of times you guys say, oh, it doesn't matter, I can watch what I want, I can see what I want, it doesn't influence me at all. But what we see on the TV so many times, it does influence us. If we're watching, that shirt, that commercial, and we see that Gap shirt, well, we think we have to have Gap or have to have Hollister or Old Navy, whatever it is, because, we see somebody popular wearing that, so we think we have to have it. We have to pay all the money for those Nike tennis shoes, right, guys? Because that's what our favorite sports team maybe is wearing, when something else would be fine. We also might see some kind of pill or medicine, for weight loss. And it says, you can lose weight in, just a few number of weeks or something. Well, obviously we know it's just deceptive. So we need to make sure that when we view these media messages that we're able to say what is correct, what is a good influence on us, what is a positive influence, and what is a negative influence. Because the media can have things that we should do. We should listen. They can have great advice, but they can also tell us there's things that we have to have, or, we're not as good as somebody else if we don't have all the name brand clothes, or, we have to look a certain way or act a certain way. We need to be confident in who we are so we know that we don't have to have those sorts of things. So all of these influences, they all influence our health in a certain way, and we need to be wise. If we know why they influence us, if we know how they influence us, then we're able to make those really smart decisions in our health and what to do. So in recapping really quick, can you name the 4 influences that we talked about? The first one we discussed was, do you remember? Heredity. What is passed down to us in our family? It's already in our genes, and how can that affect us? Our environment. Environment can affect us in a negative and in a positive way. Our relationships with our family, our peers, our friends, and then that other factor, mainly focusing on the media. How does that influence us and what we think we need or have to have, or how we even feel about ourselves? So that's the end to lesson 2. If you have any questions, let me know, and go ahead and make sure you take the quiz on Edmodo that is called Chapter 1, Lesson 2, and I'll see you in class tomorrow.